All right. All right. So when we're working with clients, the easiest the easiest way to get started to get started is by starting in command. So I'm going to share my screen with all of you, and we're going to work off of my command here. And I'm going to move it so I can actually see the window, so it's not blocked by Zoom. All right. Can you all see this window now? So we're looking at command opportunities. So the first thing that we need to do is, okay, we got a bunch of people entering the waiting room. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to create an opportunity. I'm going to assume that you know how to create a contact already and that you already have that person in here. I'm not going to go through all of that process. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is create an opportunity. I'm just going to use myself as an example here. All right. So the create opportunity window pops up. Some of the information is already filled in, as in which market center. So because I'm part of 2 market centers, I'm going to select the market center that this is going to be working out of. So Ridgefield. We're going to select the opportunity type. So if this is a listing opportunity, a buyer, landlord, or tenant opportunity. And this is important to make sure that you select the correct one. Select the listing opportunity. I'm going to select myself as the client. All right. And this is Dan Raposo listing. All right. And then the only other information that we have to add to this is a commission rate, 3%. Estimated listing price is $425. All right. I'm going to move this to the active opportunity phase. All right. I'll actually move it to offer made. And I'm going to hit create. Now, when I hit create, it's going to bring me straight into the opportunity. And this is going to show me all of the basic information that I just put in, plus a bunch of other information that I haven't put in yet. So if I want to add some of that, I can. So I'm going to use this for myself. All right. This is 25 Best Places, my personal residence that I have listed with Chris right now. All right. All right. And it's going to put in that now it's pulled in the property information. It has the seller commission here. Doesn't have any of this information, but you can add this if you want to. You can also add things like closed date, estimated closing date, various appointment dates. All right. You can add that information in, but you don't have to. Now, I'm assuming that most people come here once they already have the client, once they already have the documents, once they're already on the MLS, right? Most of you, I'm assuming, aren't actually doing this like the moment that you get an opportunity. Most of you are actually doing this after the fact when you have a bunch of your documents that you need to upload in order to send them to the MCAs, right? To either Deb or to Sam and Lisa. So the next place you want to go to is the Documents tab, this button here. So we're going to click on the Documents tab, and it's going to pull up our Documents folder. The first thing we want to do is select a checklist type. In Ridgefield, they look like this. You have to select between Connecticut listing and New York listing. In Stamford, they look slightly different. All right. And then it brings up 3 phases. So you have listed, under contract, and closed. Now, for the Stamford folks on this again is going to look a little bit different because Stamford Market Center has it set up differently. What I will tell you is this: we are working to make sure that both market centers are set up the same way. All right, just to make these trainings and things like that a little bit easier. And we're also, now that we've been kind of working with this for the past 6 months or so, and getting agent feedback and things like that, we also want to tweak. We're also going to tweak these to make that more efficient for all of you as well. Now, when I click on any of these phases, you'll see that there's a different documents list in this side here. So on the listed side, we have our transaction checklist, our exclusive right to sell, agency disclosures, property disclosures, all of these things. Now, if I want blank versions of these, because I'm about to go on an appointment and I want to just print blank versions of them to have the person sign in person there, I can just click on any of these hyperlinks and it's going to pull up a blank version of it that I can then print. Okay. However, if I want to actually fill these out electronically, right, and type them and type everything in, I need to go to DocuSign or .loop. Now, I personally am not using .loop, so when I have this start a transaction button, some of you who are using both services are going to have a little drop down arrow here, similar to this drop down arrow right here. There's going to be a little drop down arrow right next to the start a transaction button. If you click on that drop down arrow, it's going to allow you to choose either .loop or DocuSign. Because I'm not using .loop because I didn't want to pay for it, if I click the start a transaction button, what this is going to do is it's going to connect me to DocuSign, and it's going to create a room in DocuSign for me. And that is going to look like this. Okay, now this is a little frustrating for me because the first place it brings you is to the Documents tab, but that's actually not where we want to start. In order to make things easier for you, where we actually want to start is on the Details tab here on the top. So I'm just going to click on Details up here in the upper left-hand corner, and it's going to bring in all of the details. Now you'll see that some of this information has been brought in from command already, so you don't have to input it a second time. So you'll see that there's seller information here, all right? But not all of this information is in here. So I'm actually going to hit the edit button, this big blue button here on the top right. And that will allow me to edit all of this information in the Details tab. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I don't know what this phone number is, but I'm going to delete it. I'm going to put the cell phone number here in the cell phone tab. All right. I'm going to put my address in here. I'm going to fill in my basic details. Now there's no second seller, although technically there is, but for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm not going to put a second seller here. All right. Or you know what? Actually, maybe I will. So I'm going to put her in here, who is the co-owner on this property. Okay. It automatically pulled my information in from command as the listing agent, because I know this is a listing agent opportunity, listing opportunity. It pulled in, for some reason, it pulled in some of the address information, but not all of it. So I'm just going to fill that in. There's no second listing agent, and I don't have any buyer information yet because it's not filled out. So I'm just going to close those. So now that I have all of that basic information in here, I'm just going to kind of go back through here and fill in some of this extra. So the property location is, like we said before, is 25 Betts Place. I'm not going to put the county. Put Connecticut. All right. Now that I've entered this basic information, I'm just going to click the save button on the bottom right. And that's going to save all these details. Now, you can see that command and DocuSign are kind of talking together at this point, right? Some of the and DocuSign is able to pull some of the information in from command. I will tell you, when we first started using this, it actually didn't. All right, it actually didn't do that. Now it is. Okay, so and as we use it more, and those connections are getting better. So the more information you can put into the opportunity and command, the more information will fall in place here. All right. Now that we've entered all the basic details, all the people, the location, things like that, we're going to go to the Documents tab. And this is where we're going to actually find our documents. So one of the questions people had is, okay, I'm having trouble finding all of the documents, right? Here's the basic process for finding all the documents. I will say that pretty much every document you could use is in here. However, we're still working on how to get it set up properly to make it easy for all of you to find, easier for all of you to find it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the Add Documents button, and we're going to select DocuSign Forms. Now, If you want to fill out forms in DocuSign and send them for signatures, you're going to want to use the DocuSign Forms button. If you already have the documents filled out and you just need to, like, because you downloaded them or you printed them and filled them out by hand, you can upload them from your computer by clicking the computer button. All right. If you click on computer, all it does is it pulls up a window and it allows you to select documents from wherever you have them stored on your computer. All right. So I'm not actually going to upload any of these, but they're all here, right? And you can upload them directly from your computer. If you're looking for blank forms that you can then fill out, you're going to want to use DocuSign Forms. And we have our forms organized in two ways. All right. The first is in our DocuSign Forms library. And that is essentially, the libraries are organized by the creators of the forms. All right. So DocuSign, just like .loop, required that forms are copyright protected. So we have to label them accordingly and organize them based on who created them. So if you use the DocuSign Forms library, and then you're just going to select the various library. So if you're in Ridgefield, you're not going to have all of these selections, but you're going to have the Connecticut Association of Realtors, the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors, KW 471, Smart MLS, Northern Fairfield County Realtors are going to be your options, right? If you're in Stanford, you're going to have Hudson Gateway, 612, New York State Association of Realtors, and Smart MLS. All right, as your options here. And so this is going to, so the key to knowing where to find these documents is knowing who created them, right? So if I'm looking for the standard MLS contract, right, to write up an offer or something along those lines, I go to Smart MLS because the MLS is the organization that created that, right? So I'm going to essentially scroll down, and I have the Smart MLS purchase agreement. I have the MLS property condition report, the standard form real estate contract, the residential data input. So these are all the forms that were created by the MLS for us to use. If I come into the KW 471 folder, I have all of the KW specific forms in here. So there's our dual agency agreement. There's our agency disclosure form. So I'm going to select the agency disclosure form because that's one that I need. All right. I'm going to select the 2020 lead disclosure. All right.
Dan, a few of the forms under the other one or two of the other groups, they say sample on them.
If you could email Deb Linky. Okay. So Deb is the person who has control over what forms show up here. Well, she's the one who has to submit them to KWI to have them changed. So if there are some forms in there that are incorrect or are samples, like you said, we need to get those replaced with forms that don't say those things.
When I find them again. Yep.
All right. So yeah. So and here's the other thing too, is if you're finding that there are forms missing, you're going to want to contact your MCA division. If there are forms that you can't find, all right, the simplest solution is to just call Sam or Deb or Lisa. Say, listen, I'm looking for this form. I can't find it in DocuSign. And it's a good chance that one of two things is happening. One, you're either looking in the wrong place, which is possible, or we have it kind of located in a place that doesn't make sense, which is also very possible. All right. And then the other possibility is that the form isn't there. And what we need to do is we actually need to send it to DocuSign in order to have them add that form. Okay. Which does take a little bit of time. It is moving faster now than it did in the very beginning, though, now that they've gotten most market centers pretty much up and running. All right. So the other thing that the other way of organizing and finding these documents, which is how the other way we've organized these documents is kind of by use. So we've created what are called groups. So if you don't want to necessarily look up documents based on who created them, but like what they're used for, we've created groups. So if you click on this drop-down menu right here, you can select DocuSign Form Groups. And then if you select the next drop-down menu, you're going to have kind of groups based on the type of use, right? So again, if you're in Ridgefield or Stanford, you're going to have slightly different options here. All right. So we have buyer docs. This is a Stanford group. All right. We have Connecticut tenant, Connecticut buyer, Connecticut landlord, Connecticut seller, landlord docs, listing docs, and tenant docs. All right. So Stanford has organized theirs. Well, both offices have organized them essentially the same way. It's just Ridgefield say CT first. Okay. Because we're going to be separating the New York docs from the Connecticut docs. All right. So I know that this is a Connecticut seller, so I'm going to click on Connecticut seller. And in here, there's going to be a combination of both KW as well as smart MLS forms. So I also need to pull the smart MLS residential property. I'm going to need the data input form. I need the exclusive right to sell. I already have the lead disclosure. I already have the updated the updated agency disclosure in there as well.
Property inclusion exclusion.
Yep, I'm going to need that, right? Thank you, D. All right, and let's just, for this example, say that's all I'm going to need for now. Okay. All right. Now I have all the documents that I need, right? Now we need to actually start filling them out. So some of these forms, so here's the big difference, and where this is the big spot where a lot of people get hung up. In Dotloop, all of the filling out of everything on anything that could possibly go on a form happened in one place in the loop, right? You had a loop, it had a list of forms. It didn't look like this, it looked more like this, right? Where you had just kind of a list of your forms. And if you clicked on one, you could fill everything out and add the signatures and do all of those things. Here's the difference. DocuSign separates signatures and initials from the actual information that gets filled out on the form. And the reason they do that is so that you can modify these documents without affecting the signatures. One of my biggest pet peeves with Dotloop is that if you fill out a form and send it for signatures and then have to go back and change that form, you need to add the form again in order to create a new version of it. If you edit that form, it actually erases all the signatures. That was one of my biggest pet peeves. What DocuSign does instead is they have one version of the forms which are writable, right? Which are editable. And every time you send them for signatures, it creates a copy of that form in its signature, in its signed form, so that it's protected and it can't get edited. So it maintains the integrity of those signed documents. All right. So just as an example, I'm going to start with the exclusive right to sell listing contract. So when I click on this form, there's going to be some information that I'm going to enter right here and now. So you can see it already pulled in all of the basic information that I put into the details section. It pulled in the owner information, it pulled in the brokerage name, the property address. I didn't put in list price, but I'll put it in now. All right. I didn't put in the date, so I'll put that in now. %6 listing within 120-day period of time. Now you can see there's initials here, but there's nothing for me to add for initials, right? Because this is me just filling out the form. It has nothing to do with signatures or initials. Again, this is not for me to fill out, right? This is for the owners to fill out. So I'm not going to be doing any check boxes or any of that stuff here either. All right. Go active date will be 10/28/2020. No other terms. All right, it's pulled in their property addresses here. It pulled in the only thing I'm going to add here is the office phone number for the telephone number down there. And that's it. My form is filled out. All right. Now I'm going to hit save and close. And this form is filled out. Now that I've filled out the form, I actually want to send it for signatures now, right? So I'm actually going to come, so the next step, so there's essentially 3 steps to using DocuSign. The first is filling out the details page. The second is pulling in your documents and filling out your documents. And then the third step is sending it out for signatures. And that is done through envelopes. So I'm going to click on the envelopes tab and I'm going to hit create a new envelope. And I'm going to name the envelope, please DocuSign listing agreement. All right. So now that I've named it, I'm going to pull in the documents that I want to send. I'm going to hit room docs because that's going to pull in the documents that I have already in the room. I'm going to go to the exclusive right to sell listing contract and the agency disclosure, and I'll add those two. I'm going to hit add selected. I'm going to then add recipients. Now, if I use pre-tagged roles or room participants, it's going to automatically know which people I've already added to the room. So if I go to pre-tagged roles, I'm going to do seller 1, and I'm going to select Dan Raposo. All right, and I'm going to make sure that, and I'm going to do seller 2. I'm going to select Liz Robinson. I'm going to say listing agent. I'm going to say Dan Raposo now using my KW email address, right? So I can separate myself since I'm going to be signing them both. All right. I'm not going to fill out all of these roles because you can see that there's 2 different documents here. If I pre-tag all of these roles, it's going to create secondary roles for everybody, and I don't want to do that. All right. I just want each person to be in one role for this. All right, so that they just get to sign everything once. So I'm going to hit add selected. It's going to add all of these people. Now you can see now, so Alex, this may have been where you're running into issues. You can set an order for who needs to sign when. And what ends up happening is if you have seller 1 and then I make seller 2 step 2 in the transaction, what ends up happening is seller 2 isn't going to see the document, isn't going to receive the document until everybody who's in the first position signs it first. So that could be part of the issue that you're having. So I'm going to change that back to make everybody 1 so that everybody receives it at the same time. All right. Now, there are some documents that you're going to want set up in signing orders, right? Like if you're in a dual agency situation, right, you're going to want to make sure that the dual agency form gets signed first before the seller receives the offer. Or if you're sending an offer to both the seller and the buyer, because you're in that dual agency situation, you're actually going to want to send it to the buyer first and not send it to the seller until the buyer signs it, right? So there are situations where you're going to want to, create a signing order. This isn't one of them, though. All right. So I'm going to make everybody, sender 1 so that so that everybody receives it in the first step. And now that I've sent that, you can add you can edit the email that's going to go to everybody. So I'm just going to edit the subject line and I'm going to say, hey, Dan and Liz, come on, Dan, grammar, is the listing agreement and agency disclosure for us to get started working with each other. Come on. Woking. All right, I'm just going to put a basic message in there. And now that I've set this all up, I'm going to click next.
Hey, Dan, would you have put Rick in there on the exclusive at that point?
Not normally, because you can add him later. But if you wanted to add Rick as the signing broker, you can add him as an additional recipient as well in that situation. That's kind of a personal preference. Everybody kind of does it differently. I think I do think it's best, like that document does this. So you might, I might add him in as a second step so that everybody signs it first and then he gets it, right? That again with the signing order. All right, so this is now, again, the kind of that second step where people get confused, because now this is where we're going to start actually signing things and adding the initials, the places for people to initial and for people to sign. So if you see, as I'm scrolling through the exclusive right to sell contract here, I have 3 people up in the top here. I have Dan Raposo twice, but in 2 different roles. Okay, because I have Dan Raposo, the agent, and I have Dan Raposo, the client. And then I have Liz Robinson, the other client. You can see here that Dan Raposo in blue is the seller client. Purple is Liz Robinson. Okay, so the initials are already put there because it's preformed. These dots are now checkable, but they're assigned to me, Dan Raposo, seller 1. All right, so I'm going to have to select one of those 3 options on all 4 of these when I go to sign. Again, another initial tab. All right, and then you can see that all of the roles have already been put in here. So you're going to have seller 1, seller 2, and agent. Now, if you added Rick to this as well, there'd be a spot for him here. All right, now that's the exclusive right to sell. The agency disclosure, if you remember, I didn't actually fill that out, those roles, so it didn't fill anything in here. So what I'm going to now have to do is so as the agent, I need to initial this. So I'm going to put that down here. And then I need my sellers to sign this. So I'm going to change who my seller is by going to that drop down menu at the top, okay, and selecting the different role. So I need to sign it there, and I need the date to go here. So I'm going to click on date signed. So I just click on signature, and then I click on date signed, and I just drag them in. I'm now going to switch roles to add Liz. I'm going to click on signature, drag it in. You can see DocuSign automatically changes the size of it to match the size of the other signature you added. I'm going to click on date signed and drag that in. And now these documents are ready to send. And that's it. I'm not going to click this send button though. All right, because I'm not about to send this to Liz. Now, so what I'm going to do instead is click this back button. And what I will do instead is go to another room that I have where I do have actual signatures that are completed. So I can kind of continue showing you the next steps in the process. All right. So this is a property that I placed an offer in over the weekend. And if you go here, you can see that I have all the various documents that I created for it, right? So I have offer docs, I have my certificate, right? So I have the agency disclosure, I have my exclusive right to represent buyer form here. I'm going to go back to this version of it so it's a little bit easier for all of you to see it. Now, here's what ends up happening. So I created this agency disclosure and the exclusive right to represent a buyer, and I sent it to myself for signatures because I'm representing myself. And then as soon as I sign them, DocuSign creates the second version of it. Okay. That's it. Now, this is a protected version of the document, meaning I can't make changes to it or anything else because it's been signed by all parties. So now you have a protected version of it that has the signatures in it already. Okay. But for instance, on like the offer form, right? So I use the standard form real estate contract, and this is going to answer Rosemary's question, right? Now I created my offer, my standard form real estate contract, and I signed it and I sent it to them for, as part of my offer. But let's say they come back and now we've negotiated and I need to change it. Unlike Dotloop, all I have to do is go back into the original form. So I just clicked on where it said start Smart MLS standard form real estate contract. So I offered them 505. Let's say, okay, instead of 505, we actually agreed on 515, right? And I'm going to put $15,000. Now I'm going to put $15,000 there, and I'm going to make this 20,000 so I don't have to mess with my financing amount. And then I'm going to change this to 515. And now I can edit these documents. Nothing else has changed. The dates aren't going to, the only thing that I need to change date wise, because I'm still going to, is I moved up the closing date from the 21st to the 7th. I wanted it to be my birthday, but he wanted to close sooner. All right. And I'm going to change this date now to the 27th. All right. All my other dates are going to stay the same. You can see DocuSign automatically already changed that date for me. All right. I'm going to put all the information is still in there and is still okay. So I'm going to hit save and close. And now guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to send it for signatures again, right? Because now I have a brand new document. So I'm going to come up in here into envelopes, back into envelopes. I'm going to create a new envelope. Final negotiated offer. I'm going to select the room docs. I'm going to go back to my standard form real estate contract and add that. I'm going to add myself as the recipient, buyer 1. I'm going to click next. It's already put in my initials and everything else. You can see that the information is now changed to what I just did. It's got buyer initials here. I don't know why the seller initials there. I'm going to delete those. Okay. All of this is here. Buyer initials are where they're supposed to be there. Buyer initials are there. Again, buyer initials are fine. I'm going to move this signature to make it a little prettier. All right. Date signed is there. Everything's good to go. And I hit send. And now this is going to send it out for signatures. And that's it. So editing documents becomes much easier in DocuSign because DocuSign maintains that initial document and keeps all signed copies of it, signed versions of it separately, right? Which is, I personally think is a nice feature of it because it means that you don't have to constantly be adding new documents to it and keeping like various forms of it, right? You just have the one editable form and then you have all of the signed versions of it as well. All right. So I believe we talked about making corrections. We kind of talked about Alex and making and documents not going through and what that issue may have been. We'll have to look into that more one-on-one, Alex. All right. Dee and Alex, I hope that may have answered some of your questions around finding documents, where to find them. We have those. You have to remember that with documents, we have those 2 different versions. And here's what I'd like to do, and maybe you'd be open to this. I think maybe we're going to put together like a mini lab with our own agents here at KW to kind of discuss, to have a conversation around what those folders should look like and which documents should be included. I think that would, do you think that might be helpful for all of you? Yeah. If we can get these folders
Yes,
organized in a way that
absolutely.
makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Now, Chelsea, DocuSign versus Command. Now, DocuSign is really you're only going to be using DocuSign when you need to when you actually want to fill out the forms and send, or fill out the forms and then print them, or fill out the forms and send them for signatures. Because any of these forms, once I've filled them out, like this real estate contract, once I have it filled out, even though it's not signed, like if I wanted to fill it out and then print it. Oh, I don't want to do that here. Sorry. I can just select this form here and I can download it. I can archive it. All right. I can email it to myself. All right. And then once I've downloaded, I can then print the form. If I want to fill out the form on here and then send it for signatures, like personally print it and bring it for signatures, I can do that through here as well, just by downloading it. All right. And it kind of just keeps things super simple. Now, command, on the other hand, is not where I want to do any of that kind of stuff. I don't want to use command for filling out things or printing things or anything like that, right? What I'm going to do with command is this is where this is where all of my files eventually end up once I have kind of their final versions, right? So for this example, for the listing agreement, I need to upload some documents here. Now, I just created 2 of those documents. So if I want to add those to command now, so I can send them to Deb, I'm going to click on the attach multiple files button, which is right here in the middle. And I'm going to select DocuSign at the top. And what this is going to do is this is going to give me a drop-down menu of all the documents that I have in that room. So I know I created the exclusive right to sell. I know it's not signed yet, but for this example, I'm going to just do it anyway, right? So I'm going to say exclusive right to sell listing contract. I also have the agency disclosure. So if I hit the drop down menu again, all of these pull up and I can click agency disclosure. Now I also have the property disclosure in here. So I'm going to select that one. I've got my lead disclosure. Oops, I selected the wrong one. All right. MLS data input. Got that one in here somewhere. Inclusion exclusion form. Right? So you can see now, if I hit attach, it's now going to pull all of those documents in from DocuSign. And this is where command starts saving you time. Unlike, is that all of the documents are already in there. So you don't have to download and upload things over and over again. If you've printed documents and had them hand signed, or you have them on your computer, the other option is you hit attach multiple files and you hit manual and you hit drag and drop and you can pull them up from your computer, right? So the easiest way to get your documents into command is through the attach multiple files link. So I have a lot of people so any questions around this so far? We're gonna kind of get back into the troubleshooting question and answer portion of this now. Did that seem simple enough from a walkthrough standpoint? I tried to go step by step and kind of slowly. Any questions around that?
Yes, Dan, thank you. That helped.
Awesome. I'm glad.
Great.
Good.
Super.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so I can see all of your faces. And I'll share it again if I need to go back to it. But yes, let's go with questions. Alex.
So my first question, just literally in the last 2 minutes, was you went back into command from DocuSign because you wanted the opportunity to send those documents to the market center as a group or maybe one at a time, depending. And you're choosing to do it that way as opposed to sending them out of DocuSign because they don't require signature or they
No.
copies.
So here's the difference, right? And this is a big point of confusion for a lot of people too. DocuSign is not for submitting your documents to anybody other than clients.
Okay.
All right. So I will say that this was one area that was simpler before that we've added a second step to. And I do believe that adding that second step will be incredibly helpful for all of us in the long run, thinking big picture. All right. There's nothing else that I can really say about other than I'm sorry that all of you now have to take a second step to submit your documents. But please believe me when I tell you that it will make all of your lives easier and better as real estate agents in the future.
I believe you.
All right. It's just adding that extra step is allowing us to actually understand
froze.
Going to make things way easier for us down the road. All right.
Grows. Anyway.
The other thing that it allows us to do is eliminate green sheets, right? So at 1 o'clock today, we're doing a commissions tab, which is essentially going to teach you how to use this tab. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. All right. How to use this tab in the opportunity to submit your commission information so that you don't have to submit green sheets anymore.
Dan, I've been using that. And
Yes.
what I would like to see, and I did put this note out there, to be able to print that page, the commission page, with
Yeah.
all the information for us.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, it's not in reports. I couldn't find any place. I literally had to, copy and paste kind of thing this
Yeah.
morning to catch up with my paperwork.
You know what? Let me go back to that.
I want to say that I used it for the first time last week, and it is incredibly simple.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Great.
It's much simpler now. It's not as fully featured as Green Sheets is. There's not as much detail. They are working to build more of that detail in, but they wanted to keep it simple. And just to give you a quick preview of what that's going to look like. I'm going to just rush through this just for the sake of showing you the next page. All right.
Yeah.
In order to unlock the commissions tab, you have to fill in what the offer information is. I just did it very quickly. It wasn't for the point of demonstration for you. It's just in order to get through it so I can show you this tab. All right. But this is the commissions tab. So once you select the contract date, all right, you can come in here and start editing. So if there's another agent that you need to pay, or if there's a co-broke payment that you need to take out of this gross commission, you can add those two things here. So adding another agent is another KW agent. Okay. You can also edit the agent payment. So if there were any kind of last minute concessions that you did at the end, you can change what the commission was. Okay. It's going to automatically calculate your royalty and your company dollar based on whether or not you've capped. All right. You can then put in KW Cares donations, and then it shows you your net. All right. If you have extra items like referrals and things like that, you hit the add item button. Say, okay, I have an outside referral, and then it's going to ask you for that referral information. So I'm actually going to say this is an inside referral. And I'm going to say it's $1,000, and it's going to go to D. And all right, and now it's going to again subtract that out, and then it affects the net.
Thanks, by the way, I can use the 1,000.
You're welcome. Right. All right, and now if I hit save changes, all of this information changed. One of the features I love about this is that it shows you how far along you are to capping, which is pretty awesome, right? It shows you how much company dollar you've paid, how much you have left, it shows you how much royalty you've paid, how much you have left, gives you a breakdown here. If there's any notes or anything that you need to add for Deb or Lisa or Sam, this is the place where you can put them. Because this isn't fully functional yet, I've been telling people a lot, like if there's something that you can't figure out how to do or an adjustment you can't figure out how to make, just add a note. The MCAs can change this on the back end once it's in their system. So just add a note for what adjustments need to be made, and it'll do it. I do agree. I do agree that this is something that should be like printable or emailable or something along those lines. And I'm sure they'll do that at some point just so that you can keep a record of it. But you obviously always have a record of it here in Command. All right. I hope this was helpful. Joanne, how do you go right to DocuSign without having to sign in each time? So if you want to go, so that's a great question, actually. Am I still sharing my screen? No.
No.
Because that's one of the frustrations. People are like, why do I have to go into Command in order to go to DocuSign, right? You don't. So if I close these two tabs and I open a new one and I just go straight to DocuSign, it's going to ask me to log in the upper right-hand corner here. I click the login button. You know, I find it interesting how often agents have kind of like their own ways of getting to places, right? Like, I always just kind of type what I want right here in the address bar, but a lot of people, like if they want to go to Command, they go to my KW first, and then they log into my KW. And this takes forever to load because I'm screen sharing, right? And then they go to technology and click on Command, or if they want to go to dot loop, they hit start my transact, right? So like everybody has kind of their own way of getting to places. I just go straight to I just put straight in like whatever I'm looking for. So if I'm looking for Command, I know it's agent.kw.com. So I put agent.kw in and it pops up. If I'm looking for DocuSign, I just put DocuSign in here. If I'm looking for Google Drive, whatever it is. Oops, I just messed myself up now.
Those favorite tabs are really very helpful and time saving.
Yes.
FYI.
Also these like the shortcut buttons that you can have down here for things. So yeah, if you want to go straight into DocuSign, say you just need to you need to send out a document for signature. You've already created the opportunity in the room through Command. If you click on their profile button here in the upper right, you can see it says switch to rooms. Once you log in, DocuSign automatically defaults to e-signature. So if you click on your profile button and then switch to rooms, it brings you to DocuSign rooms.
Okay, but you were in Command before, and when you went into go to transaction, when you were talking about having dot loop and DocuSign, when you hit click transaction or what have you, it automatically went in without having to sign in again.
It's because I had already signed in just to make it easier.
Gotcha. Okay.
For the demonstration.
Can I ask a really stupid question?
Sure.
No questions.
This has been a real sticking point with DocuSign. I don't know what my password is, so if I do it from my home computer, but is there any way to see what the password is?
You mean you have it saved on your computer so you don't know what it is?
Well, yeah, my computer at home automatically saved the password.
What kind of computer do you have?
Just a PC.
Okay, so a couple things. So if it automatically does it kind of like mine just did it, right?
Right. It just
if you click on the password and you click manage passwords,
okay,
it's going to bring you to the passwords section here. And then if you just click on the little eyeball, if you go down and find, so I need DocuSign, so I can search for DocuSign here, and it's going to have the different DocuSign accounts, account.docusign.com, rooms. If I just click on the little eyeball, which I'm not going to do because I'm not going to show you all my password, all right, it'll actually show you the password.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. See, we're solving all kinds of issues here. All right. All right. Any other final thoughts or questions before we tap out?
I think I had another question. Can you go back unshare so I can look at the chat? Yes. So I have clients who do not live on the property. So I put in their actual home address and then that populates into the forms.
So there's two places to add addresses there. When you go into the details, whoops. So you want the property address to be here under location. And then you want
Not
their
sharing.
personal address to be here.
You're not sharing. I don't know where here and here
Oh,
is.
sorry. All right. So when you go into the details tab, you want the property location that's being sold to be put into the location information here.
Yep,
And then you want the seller information to be put here.
correct. But then that seller address populates in one of the forms. I don't recall which one.
Okay, so that might just be that the document is mapped incorrectly, which has happened. There have been a couple like random little, random ones. So the way these forms have been created is that we had to send all of the forms to DocuSign. And then DocuSign actually mapped each one of them. And just like everybody, like they made a couple mistakes here and there. So some of those places, some of those things might not be mapped correctly. Now, if you can recognize that, right, next time you see that, just like make a note of it and let Deb know. She can send that to DocuSign to have it corrected.
Okay,
That's
sure.
unfortunately not something that we can correct on our end. It's something that we do have to request from DocuSign.
Okay, when I come across it again, I'll let her know. Thank you.
And that's pretty much the way everything works with this. If it's a DocuSign form, like we have to go to DocuSign. But listen, we can't make the system better because you have to recognize, like, myself, Deb, Rick, Sam, Adonis, Lisa, we're not using these forms every day the same way you are, right? We're really only using these forms, like I'm using them personally because I'm selling my own personal properties and I'm looking to buy properties right now. But I'm not using them every day like you are. I'm not using the representation docs. I'm not using the offer docs. I'm not using the disclosures, things like that, right? But you are. So if there's something that's not working properly, the only way for us to fix it is if you let us know. And all of these things can be fixed, but not if we don't know about them, right? So that's where the partnership kind of comes in. All right.
Got it. Thanks.
Should we include our name still with the brokerage name? No, on any forms where it asks for broker information, it should have the brokerage name, not your name. Okay.
Brokerage
So
name
like
only.
exclusive right to sell should have Keller Williams Realty or Keller Williams Prestige Properties. It should not have your name on that. Your name would be the authorized signer or authorized representative, whatever it says at the bottom. Greenwich MLS forms, Dorothy, I'm not sure about. That's something that we would need to talk to Sam and Adonis about. I don't work in Greenwich. I'm not part of the Greenwich MLS, so I don't even know what those forms look like. But my guess is that our market center does have them and has access to them as a member of the Greenwich MLS. It's a question of whether or not they've been uploaded to DocuSign. My birthday is the 21st of December, not November. Yes. Again, like I said, I'm more than happy. I'm going to talk to some of the leadership team about putting together our own agent lab to try to get some feedback over the groups that we've created in the folders, so that we can kind of make those a little bit more efficient for all of you. It's always a question of, do you want to include as many documents as possible so that everybody's documents are kind of in the same place, but you also want to simplify it and maybe only include the basics so that people who are so that people who are like kind of just using the basic documents all the time, like they don't have to scroll through a bunch of documents in order to find the ones they want, if that makes sense. So it's finding that balance. That's why we have we have the groups and we have the library. The library is where you find all of the forms. The groups are meant to be there so that, like, kind of as the more efficient option to just kind of go directly to the forms that you need, whether it's a seller, whether it's a buyer, whether it's a tenant, a landlord, etc. All right. Yeah. So if you have a deal that might require a Hartford purchase agreement, that's going to be like kind of a document that you're going to have to upload. All right.
Go
All
back.
right, cool. All right. Thank you everybody very much. You've
Dan,
been a
okay.
wonderful audience.
Quick answer to Alex.
yes.
Oh, Alex, yeah.
She'll be notified of a signature. When they
how-
sign, it'll come to you via email.
Yeah, right. I've never gotten an email.
Do you have your email set up with the email that's on your DocuSign account? Because if because your DocuSign account is going to be your KW email. So do you have your KW? Are you receiving KW emails?
Yes, but I have never received anything from DocuSign.
Okay.
So
That
that's
is a
why
weird and totally separate issue. So I'm going to,
we'll
my
talk.
guess is that you're receiving KW emails, but maybe not, but possibly because we're not using your KW email because we're using your personal email for like office communications and stuff. And not necessarily your @kw.com email address.
You mean it's coming from you guys that it's an issue?
No. So what I'm saying is you're probably receiving so DocuSign is going to use your @kw.com email address.
Right, but there's never, I mean, I check both those accounts, so.
Oh, okay. So
Right.
yeah, I'm not sure why you wouldn't be receiving them though.
Right.
So
it's kind of
we'll have to
mysterious.
look at that.
So it's
All right.
supposed, I mean, it's supposed to be notifying you every time that document's touched.
Yeah, every time it's viewed and every time it's signed,
Thank
you should get notifications for that.
Sorry
All right.
to be.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
I'll
Thanks
see
so
you all at
much.
1 o'clock for our ALC meeting, or for some of you, if you're on the commissions tab class, get in there and check that out as well. All right. If you can't, if you want to be on both, I'm sorry, but you can't. So hopefully I'll see you on the ALC call, and then you can hop into the recorded version of the commissions tab. Or if you really want, I am more than willing to sit down with any of our ALC members and do a personal commissions class one-on-one. All right. Or an ALC only class if there's enough demand for it. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. See you soon.